The FMS ROCHOBBY Ridge Racer U4 1/7 off-road desert buggy is here, and it's freaking ridiculous. Oh, that's not good at all. Wow. So first off, I want to say thanks to FMS for sending this over, because they honestly just like completely changed my mind on this truck. I'm not a big U4 style guy. Like, I'm just not big on this. It's not one of those things that I love. But once I got this unboxed, I actually found myself really liking the looks of it. And after driving it, I freaking love it. So one of the things is, like, my buddy and I, you can see this has already been ran pretty good. It sat here for a little bit. The weather's just been terrible. Haven't really been able to get out with it. And my buddy Mike stopped by, and he's like, dude, are we gonna run this before I leave? Because, like, I've got to see this run. I want one. So we broke it out. I really wasn't planning on filming the running that we were doing. We were just kind of gonna toy around with it a little bit. And then we found ourselves just full sending this thing like 40 feet off the dirt jump out here. But the way this thing drives and flies and handles is perfect. I think the spare tire and just the added weight back here, almost all of these bashers anymore, they seem to nose really bad, and so you gotta just really pin the throttle to keep them level. This thing, you can jump it and just let go, and it pretty much flies itself. You know, you've got the throttle if you need it. It's very torquey. It feels just really good on the throttle, and we'll talk about that in a bit. The brake works well, so you have all of the air control you need. It just jumps like a dream. So the one thing that blew me away more than anything with this was how well the suspension works. This thing has a ton of travel. As you'll see, ton of travel. And Mike and I were looking at it, and we're like, it probably needs to be lowered a little bit. Like, it could stand to be lowered because it has all of this travel, and it looks like it sits a little high. But then we got out here ripping it around, and you can even just spin this thing around on the concrete at a pretty high throttle, and it holds itself stable. It just will kind of spin around. It doesn't tend to just dump over. It doesn't feel like it's a high center of gravity at all. Really just handles perfect. And then you have all of that suspension to soak up all of the bumps on the jumps and things. The jump out here is a wreck. We've had snow and ice and stuff, and it's just a mess. Right before the face of the jump, there's just bumps and humps, and so you come through there, and the thing, you know, is just kind of hitting all of this, and then you're launching off the jump, which usually really just causes trucks to go crazy. And at times it would this. Obviously, it's going to pretty much any RC, but this thing actually hit that jump for it being a wreck, like perfect. I was blown away by how good it was hitting this jump and flying and soaring, and just the way you could just let off the throttle and the thing just stays level. So look, there's a lot of videos out there on breaking this thing down. So I'm not gonna go into all of that stuff. This does have a hobby wing system in it. I don't even know, man. It's the 4274 1600 kV motor. As I said, you've got all of these specs other places. This is a 6S ESC, 6 amp BEC, 150 amp WP Max X8. If you're looking for like a detailed breakdown of it, Ken at the Shop Mini, he's always got like the best deep dives. He can tell you like what type of bearings in it. He can probably tell you the type of dirt that's on mine. Like, he's gonna explain it in his video. So go check him out, because I don't get that detailed. I don't wanna do that. I really don't care. I'm glad people do those for when you have a question, you can go watch it. So I do find myself going and checking his videos a lot just to kind of see, because I'm too lazy to tear something down. So shout out to him, major shout out to him for doing all the work that he does. Me, I just like to get it and go run it and see what I think about it. I did find mine getting pretty warm. I didn't get all the way through a 6S pack out in probably 18-degree weather, and this thing was pretty warm. So when it warms up, I'm gonna have to keep an eye on my motor temps, I'm sure. It does feel great on the throttle. Like, it's like a freaking rocket. This thing just zips. And it's torquey. The diffs are pretty, the fluid's gotta be pretty light in them, because you can really hear them kind of slipping, which keeps it from just wheeling or just throwing tires off of the wheel. So it feels pretty good. Like, it actually feels really good to me. I like, as I mentioned, the way it handles the throttle just really feels good. It's got a ton of get up and go, and it's got a good overall max speed. So it all just works well. So I kind of wondered why FMS would take this truck and kind of make it their own, put their own spin on it, you know, and release it as theirs. After driving it, there's no doubt in my mind why. Somebody got a hold of one of these and seen how good it was and decided they wanted a part of it, right? So I'm glad they did, because we're gonna have more parts availability, hopefully some aftermarket stuff, and just better support overall. I did have one minor breakage. I'll show you guys, is on the front A-arm, the upper A-arm. So I did snap this upper A-arm, as you can see right there. So I got another set of those ordered up. But besides that, everything else held up great on it. You do have room in here for 2 3S packs or 1 6S pack. It comes with EC5 connectors. It all works so well. These shocks seem amazing. I feel like these would be some really good like rift shocks or something. They've got so much travel. They've got just a really good cushy feel to them, and they seem to work well. I had no leakage out of the shocks anywhere that I've seen. And I mean, it's just crazy. You rarely ever get an RTR that handles this well and the shocks still work this well after taking them out and full on bashing them. So I had the low C Super Rock Ray, as I mentioned, which is, it's a little bigger, but it's very similar to this. A lot of things I didn't really like about that thing. It handled like trash, in my opinion. And then you had like the battery box on the bottom. You had to open it up and cram your batteries in, and it was just a tight fit. I like how this body pops off. You've got plenty of room in here for your batteries, whether you want to run 1 6S, as I mentioned, or 2 3S. The receiver box is not watertight, I do know that, but you could easily silicone that or whatever. You can do a lot of different things if you're doing a lot of water, but for me personally, I'm not going to do a lot of water. Probably just going to splash through some, and it's going to be fine for that. Man, just a beefy truck. CVDs up front, dog bone, solid axle in the rear, but I think it is shafts going into the rear diff. And then you've got sort of a dog bone center drive shaft setup with this big massive boot on the rear. So you get these big rubber band like limiting straps on the rear. Hopefully those will hold up over time. I could see those like ripping out eventually, but a nice setup with the sway bars front and rear. The major thing that I would change on this, if I was going to be changing anything, is just those front A-arms. And I feel like this is the only design flaw or thing that I would change. Now maybe it's designed this way so that this does break. This is a pretty simple fix, but you're going to be buying A-arms all the time. This snapped off. So I do feel like the fact that this has no support on the front side here. So most of the time, you can see the way the bottom goes in there, if the camera will focus, you have support on each side of that, basically like a double shear setup. There is no support on this front side. So I feel like that's gonna happen quite a bit. When this front end takes a really hard hit, anytime that flexes, that's gonna break, especially in the cold weather. Now it's probably not gonna happen as much in the warmer weather. This plastic is gonna flex and you're gonna be good. One thing I could also possibly see happening, I have this issue on the X-Max a lot, is the A-arm will flex so much that it will just pop off the pin. I mean, literally I've had that happen over and over. So the arm will flex so much it'll pop off the pin and you have to just like put it back. Possibly that could happen, I don't know. But as you can see on me, it was very cold out. So I kind of give this a pass, because when you run these bashers and send them like we were sending this in the cold, things are going to break, right? So I did order new A-arms for the upper, a couple sets, because I see this happening quite a bit. I almost feel like we could maybe design something to span from here across through behind the bumper here, and it would maybe give that a little more support. I don't know, but I do wish that that was designed a little bit different. Like if that bulkhead came out and wrapped around that front, we would be better off. For that to be all that's broken, it's actually still running fine. That A-arm is still on there at the moment. That's pretty dang good for the way we were sending this thing. Servo is held up very well. A metal geared servo in there. This is like looks like a 5th scale size servo in there. So
Massive servo for this little beast. It's the G9035 servo. It's supposed to be metal gears. This is all metal gears throughout. Front, rear, center diffs. As I stated before, you can change the oil in those, stiffen them up, whatever, but I kind of like the spin that you get out of them. It's just got that perfect feel. The fact that you get a full-on spare back here is nice. A lot of times these bashers, especially like my fire team and my Mojave, I'm stripping out wheel hex, the hex on the back of the wheel quite often. So you're buying wheels and tires all the time. It's really the main issue I have with those trucks. Wheel nuts back off, and then you don't catch it in time and you strip that wheel out. So you get a spare here. So this is a full-on spare that you can use. So if that happens to you, which I had zero issues with that on this truck so far, but if it does happen, you've got a spare here to switch it out and you're good to go. This spare and this body, I think, really helps keep this thing from nosing. So it really kind of puts a little weight in the rear. Mike and I were talking at first, we were like, I'd probably just take that spare off and do this and that. And then we drove it and we were like, no, I'd probably leave that because it just flies perfect.
Give me that. Oh, let's go. Just so you guys can see, all of these huge jumps here are with the A-arm already broke. As I said, I ordered 2 sets of those uppers, and I think a set of lowers just in case, because I plan to send this thing quite a bit. It's just so much fun. But oh, that's not good at all. Wow. So I know people are going to say, oh, that's a scale basher. You're just not supposed to send it like that. Look, a freaking basher is a basher to me. If I can't come out here and do this with it, I don't want it. So I drive it how I want. Shut up. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, it is a scale basher. You're not supposed to do this stuff with it. That's why, I'm having things pop loose and stuff. But hey, that's kind of my job here, right? Test its durability. And I mean, just having an A-arm brake out in this cold weather is pretty impressive for what I'm doing to this thing. So I'm gonna pop this back on and we're gonna keep sending it some more. So look on the bright side, guys. Wow, that really launched off of that. If you're watching me drive it like this and you're saying, well, you shouldn't be driving it like that, at least you know it's gonna hold up when you drive it like a sissy. Huh. Look at that. We're taking grass and everything. Man, that actually jumps really good off of this side too. Let's do it again. Oh. So I was kind of wondering how the front bumper would hold up because it's such a sharp angle here. You'll see like this angle, it's so sharp that when you smash into stuff, like that's really taking a hit because that's just like a flat face, right? So far it seems to be holding up. I'm gonna try to show you right here. If you hit this at a pretty good little clip, you can hear me kind of let off the throttle. That was just me kind of letting off and it free coasting. And it jumps, it stays so level. Now every now and then it'll nose if you're not hitting it the right speed, but look at that. Flies so good. And you got the brake to level it out if you need to. Right there, I was
Staying it up. Hit the brake, bring it down. This thing jumps so good. Over and over. Oh. Oh. So I lost the sway bar again. You can see this is like rotating. So that's where grinding a little flat spot on that would actually help that from rotating as well, and it may help this not pop off, because when that rotates, obviously it's going to pop off of this. I'm surprised that it hasn't broke this as cold as it is out here.
I did make several speed runs just up and down the driveway, in the gravel, a little bit of the grass, and I got around 39 miles an hour as a top speed on this. I've seen people get anywhere from like 45 to 50 on blacktop, so a really good top speed though. Plenty of speed when on rough terrain like this gravel. You can also run this on 4S if you want a little less power. Me, myself, I'm one of those. If I can run 6S, I'm going to run 6. If I could run 8, I'd run 8 in it. But it has plenty of power as it is.
Quick size comparison here. Very similar to the Fire Team. Not quite as wide, but length is almost dead up the same. I do think, now I've changed these wheels out to these softer tires on the Fire Team as well. And I think we could actually run these on this. Now, they're not going to look as good in my opinion, but it would be a much softer tire that will probably perform better. And these really give you a lot of air control because they balloon a little bit. So like with the Fire Team, I can get some backflips and stuff because these will balloon out, whereas a stiffer tire, you're not going to get that. But very similar in size to the Fire Team here. Here's the Mojave, again, pretty close in size to the Mojave. Length and width overall, it looks like to me. Here we have the Valkyrie. I love this little truck, but you know, it's got a few little things, a few little issues. You can see the shocks after running this very much, they're just not doing a whole lot. But the size of this, obviously much bigger. I do prefer this size, honestly, bashing out here in the grass, tall grass, rough terrain. I love the size of this versus this. Amazing budget truck, hard to beat, but this is just on another level in my opinion. Here we are, no comparison between the X-Max. My X-Max has literally been sitting like this for like a year. I mean, it'd probably take 10 minutes to fix that. And I just haven't ran it. So haven't had the need to fix it, but you can tell here, huge difference between these two. Now this has oversized tires and stuff, but major difference between the size in these two, just in case anybody was wondering. Quick look at what we get with this. We got couple little extra parts, couple extra rod ends, extra short rod there for something. Antenna tube, extra servo horn looks like. We've got a pretty nice wheel wrench here for this. And then you've got some Allen wrenches in case you don't have any, and an extra grub screw, which is nice because those sway bars have that little grub screw in there, and I was afraid I'd lost mine earlier. And then we've got this XSP transmitter. It's just a little more basic version of some of them we've seen here recently. 5-channel. It has steering and throttle endpoints and trims. And then your gyro is on the channel 5 dial here. Lights are on channel 4, nothing on channel 3. And then overall, a nice transmitter. Pretty good feel for a basher. I tend to just leave stock transmitters for my bashers because I'm not too worried about it. I'm usually like dropping them, beating them, banging them around. I'm out in the dirt, so pretty good transmitter, and definitely just plan to leave that connected to this truck.
In closing, this thing is a beast. All of day 2 running, the speed runs, the huge sends, really most of the running was done with this A-arm broken. Now we ran it quite a bit the first day, but I just didn't film that much. And it was way colder. As I said, it was probably in the teens.
somewhere in there, and all plastics are brittle out in the cold like that. So I kind of give that a pass. This rear sway bar popping off is kind of a good sign. Today it's like 40 out, and being a little warmer, I feel like this is kind of flexing and giving and just popping off instead of breaking. I feel like out in the cold, maybe that would have broke, you know, in the freezing temperatures that we had. I did have one screw come out right here on this brace, so we'll have to pop that back in and run that screw in, but I feel like that screw just kind of backed out, so maybe some thread lock on that, some of these screws going into these aluminum braces here. Motor temps today did much better. I was doing a lot less spinning in the dirt, like ripping and just spinning like crazy. I was just speed runs and then kind of jumping. So it didn't even get hot. I ran this thing from start to finish. I never even shut it off. A couple times I stopped, popped that sway bar back on, but that's it. And it didn't get hot at all. ESC never got hot once. One of the things I love is you've seen how hard I sent this. Nothing has moved as far as electronics. This ESC is still on there. I don't know if it, I mean, it's got to be just double-sided, but maybe it's bolted. It has a plate here. It could be bolted somehow, but it didn't come loose, and this thing took some hits. That's a plus. The Red Cat, first time I was running it, the ESC's like flopping around everywhere, and that's a really good truck as well, but I like that that didn't move. None of these boots tore. I was kind of worried about this boot on the rear axle. No problem with that. Everything else is held up perfect. I can't believe I didn't even break any of these rear trailing arms. I mean, that's something, plastic trailing arms, the Rift, like I had terrible experience with that, and these are good. So after quite a bit of running, I think the rear, I'm gonna stiffen that up a little bit, maybe just run these collars down a bit. It just seemed a little soft in that rear. It would squat quite a bit under throttle a lot of times, and then I just noticed it seemed like it felt a little bit soft, but probably just try running those down a bit to start with, because it just jumps and handles really well. Tires are really hard as a rock. On the gravel, traction was not good. Even with the gyro kind of keeping it straight, or trying to keep it straight, if you fully punch it on that gravel, even that gyro can't keep the thing straight because it's just not really hooking up on that gravel at all. It seemed to do okay out here on the dirt because it's pretty moist dirt. I would say dry, dusty stuff, you're not going to hook up well. You're going to be everywhere. But that doesn't mean your tires are going to last for a good while. And on a basher, you need tires that last. So all in all, well worth the money. If you're considering it, in my opinion, definitely worth it. You've seen what I put it through, and no real issues. One A-arm, I can handle that after few hard days of bashing. Another thing is no bending on the chassis. This is an aluminum chassis. I don't see that it's bent at all. And I mean, I sent this thing pretty freaking hard. It has this sort of ridge down through here that I think really helps stiffen it up. No issues with that. I didn't send it like Kevin Talbot, but you know, I mean, at that point, you're really just trying to break it. I'm trying to bash it as hard as possible without intentionally breaking things. So you guys let me know what you think about this thing. I'll link it in the description. If you purchase through that link, it does help out the channel. It lets FMS know you're watching and you're putting your faith and trust in what I have to say, and it helps me get future releases from them, so I really appreciate it. The only thing I didn't mention is the lights. Let's do the lights real quick. They are on 5 or 6, yeah. So is that, no, that's 4. So the lights are on channel 4. You hit the channel 4 button and you can turn the lights off and on. Very cool as well. We still have lights after all of this bashing. I'm surprised. Check that out. And there you can see the gyro in action. Awesome, awesome basher. I love this thing. Appreciate you guys watching. Peace.